The Ineos Grenadier has been one of the most highly anticipated adventure vehicles of the year, and now that it's hit the US market, some incredible companies are already customizing them for serious off-road action. From the outside, this one might look like it's only lightly modified, but trust me, what's inside is where the magic happens. Stick around, you don't want to miss this. This weekend, I'm up here in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains, and we drove our Sprinter vans up to about 8,000 feet of elevation, and it was quite the experience. But my good friend John also brought his Ineos Grenadier, and if you remember several months ago, I drove this thing when it was brand new and did a full review of it. Well, since then, there have been a massive amount of upgrades to this, some stuff that I think you guys are gonna find extremely interesting. A lot of unique, very detail-oriented touches. And so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna meet with John, and he's gonna talk us through all the stuff he's done with this Grenadier. I think you guys are really gonna enjoy this. Guys, I'm here with my very good friend, John, who is the owner of Agile Off-Road. And I've known John for a couple of years because he does a lot of work on my Sprinter van. Thank you for taking good care of my Sprinter van. There's no way I would have made it up here without all the work you've done.
It was a fun day today.
Dude, it was incredible getting up here. But I mean, without bigger tires and lockers on that thing, we wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun.
Things you need to do, right? Yeah.
But you have, over the last year, have been kind of playing around with a different vehicle, the Ineos Grenadier, which you generously let me borrow when it was brand new and take it off-road. I wasn't exactly nice to it, but thank you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Grenadier so far before we break into what you've done to it? What do you think about the Grenadier?
First impression, I like it.
Yeah.
I've always been a Jeep guy. In the early years, I've had Cherokees and Jeeps. It's kind of like just a different version of that, so to speak. But little European in a couple of areas, I guess. I don't know. We're Americanizing it, I guess.
Yeah, you are.
And I really like it. Bone stock out of the box. It did everything that we wanted to on the first trail we took it on. So very capable.
Yeah, and the upgrades that you're doing to it, some of the stuff is kind of similar to what you would do to a Jeep, but some of the other things are very unique. They're almost like you're bringing a little bit of the van industry into the Ineos Grenadier. Is that kind of the thought process?
Yeah, especially like with the power system in this, which it's so RV, it's kind of unique.
Yeah.
And a lot of that we've just learned, so it's easy for us to apply that to this.
Yeah.
And then some of the things, like I'm not a big interior guy, but we made some interior pieces that a little bit out of my area, but I want them. There's nothing. This is a blank slate.
Yeah.
There's nothing for this in the U.S.
Right.
There's a few things over in Europe and other places, but they don't do the same thing we do. So, trying to.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about why you chose this one and some of the pros and cons, but we'll do that at the end of the video. Let's just dive into what you have done specifically to this Grenadier and why. So let's start with the front. I noticed there's some lights on here. What did you do there?
So. There's lights that come factory, there's a place for them. You have to be like in low range. There's all these scenarios you have to be in for them to work. I want them to come on just with a flip of a switch. Right. So we made a kit for that. We utilized some really powerful LED lights from Baja Designs. They're extremely good.
Yeah.
They actually even have a low beam feature in them. So we can turn them to 25% power and you can drive around with them on the street. Gives you kind of like a bright light, as you're driving down on the highways, things like that. But then at night, you hit them on a high power, and they're unbelievable.
Now, was that a direct fit, or did you guys create a mount for that?
We had to make mounts, and then we also we work with the manufacturer to make us a certain thinner mount so it would fit in there, so it's not sticking out.
Okay, all right. And you've got some new shiny objects under the front bumper. What's under there?
We've got skid plates that we put on that come in real handy because right now this only has about a 33-inch tall tire. You can't get too big of a tire on there. So the differentials when you're out in the rocks can drag along. I'm more worried about the diff cover getting damaged, not so much about the the housing. The housing's pretty robust.
Yeah.
So I put skid plates on there.
And they're aluminum or steel?
They're aluminum.
Okay,
I want to
good.
keep it lightweight, and then they're also a little bit malleable. So like when you hit a rock, it doesn't sound like you're just pushing all that force into this cast iron housing.
Okay.
So we are going to be building a diff cover.
Yeah.
So we're going to make a cast iron diff cover,
Nice.
just like we do for the Sprinter, like we did for yours, and that's like key.
Yeah.
So that'll be the ultimate goal.
Okay.
And then we've also got steering stabilizer. The steering in these is probably
Yep.
I mean, you drove.
That was my biggest complaint. I'm just going to say it was my biggest complaint with steering, but it definitely drives much better.
It drives, So
what
we
did you do?
The combination was we put on a lighter steering stabilizer.
Okay.
We utilized either a Fox Performance Series or the new, they have an ATS, which allows us to adjust it.
So interesting, you put a lighter one on, and that made the steering better.
Yes.
Instead of putting a stiffer one on there, which I think most people think makes things better. Not in this case.
The scenario for this is when you steer it, the stabilizer was so stiff it would actually hold it in that position. So as you're driving down, and where you would notice this was on the freeway.
Yeah.
Like you're driving down the 5 going to Encinitas to meet your buddies for dinner, and you're in 5 wide traffic. And you're steering it, if you steer a little bit one way, it just wants to continue that way. So you're on the steering 100%. Now you can drive one-handed, real comfortable. We also increased the turning radius. You probably noticed the turning radius was a little like an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. How did you make that change?
Just something pretty simple. We did some modification to the steering stops.
Okay.
So I tell people with that, take it for what it is. We're going outside of what Ineos wants. They're probably pretty conservative from what I've seen. We've had steering stops have been adjusted for several thousand miles.
Yeah.
We just did this. I did Black Bear Pass in it, which, as you know, is switch blacks, like your full lock everywhere. So it's worked out really, really well. And then I've also done something, I'm just in the preliminaries of working with it, the electric power steering, which is pretty much identical to what you're seeing on the modern Jeeps.
Yeah.
We've been adjusting the pressure in that.
Okay.
So
Nice.
that's something that I haven't figured out how to do. It does seem to work much better.
Okay. Now let's talk about under the hood. The BMW engine, you've made a couple little tweaks to that.
Yeah, just one. It's a piggyback tune.
Okay.
And we're getting about 50 horsepower. We actually ran it on a four-wheel drive dyno up in a friend of mine's got one in LA, and he does big trucks, things like that. Legitimate dyno controlled room, independent, not from the manufacturer. We hooked it up to there, and his eyes popped. He goes, if I give 50 horsepower to anybody, they're giving me a kiss on the lips. So simple install, pops right in. The motor runs pretty good. Real good.
Yeah. Not bad for a BMW.
Yeah, not bad. Straight 6, single turbo. What, 289, and I think this brings it up to about 330.
Yeah, well, it scooted right along when I drove it stock, and now it really scoots right along. Okay, speaking about scooting right along, you've increased the tire size and you put some wheels on here. What did you do?
So we have our own wheels. This has the new, it's called the Overland XT, which I think it's got a little bit modern look to it. I don't know, kind of just not really super rough and tumble looking. I like it on this. It's a 17 by 8, 32 millimeter offset. Fits really, really well. And then this has the 285, 75, 17. So on the tape measure, 33 inches. In the book, 34.
And what about behind the wheel and tires? What have you done back there for suspension?
So right now it's just got a 2.5-inch kit from Eibach. And so Eibach increases, we're still running the stock shocks on this and stock length, which is important because the drivetrain, you want to keep all that in that area. This, we won't be able to do much with like you do on the Jeeps where you're getting a ton of droop out of it. But the coils are a bit stiffer, and we got that extra ride height. Certain areas, it probably could use a little bit less ride height, but it's worked out really, really well.
What do you think the future involves of the suspension? I know you're probably going to be tweaking with that.
This vehicle has 10,000 miles on it. A lot of it's been just this, off-roading, playing with it. We've also, Fox had it for us all at 2 weeks with their testing. They had dyno equipment on it. For testing how it gets used, we did both a Performance Series shock and their Performance Elite, which is adjustable. So that will be coming really soon.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Let's talk about some of the other goodies you've got bolted up here. So I think one of the great things that Ineos did is they really made this a utilitarian vehicle to be kind of upfitted for adventure. And so they've done a lot of good stuff to make that a little easier. And you've already use some other people's mods and some of your own to kind of utilize some of that stuff. What have you done here? Let's talk about the rails down here.
So I put on some rock rails or sliders, and I wanted to keep, because the ground clearance of this is not real ideal. They're poor steps.
Yeah.
They do work as steps, and then we've got like a handle you can grab on the inside, but I really want it for ground clearance because I've learned that on the vans. We take the vans out, you have steps that hang down, we hit rocks, you get stuck on stuff. So for this, these have the highest clearance. It also looks taller than most Grenadiers just because of that profile.
And there's still a little step on there that makes it easy to get up top, which you've also added some things up there.
I've got Lightner roof rack. He makes a really low profile. It's really well designed. It mounts into existing bolts in the top.
I mean, it's really
he's
clean.
done a really good job.
It almost looks factory.
Yeah.
And I saw at Overland Expo, he's already got some really nice accessories that bolt up to that, like some jerry cans.
You can get side box, side rails and things like that if you want to put your cans on there. Because the range on this isn't great. So like when we're going to go to Death Valley and things, you're going to have some fuel anxiety. So we'll carry fuel. Right now I'm carrying it up top, and then I've also got solar panels. Got 150 watts of solar, and when I'm
those solar panels are cool. What are those?
So those are from Sunflare. They're brand new. They're 50-watt panels, and you can kind of build them. They're like, I think they're like 20 by 20 or 24 by 24, and then they just bolt in really nice, and they've got, you don't have to drill holes in them. They got slots in them. You could do your adjustment. So for these modular roof racks, they're great. And then when you see it, you don't even notice them being up there.
And you utilized the existing like wiring system to bring all that wires through?
So for the solar, I didn't.
I
actually ran a cable gland through the roof for the solar. And then I'm running a Switch Pro for a lot of the features for the house system. But I am utilizing, like, my front light bar is coming off of the factory wires. There's also additional wires. There's what they call auxiliary 5, I believe it is. That's a single 25 amp circuit. And then there's an auxiliary 3, and that one's 3 ports on the top that allow you for like scene lights or something like that.
And you've got a few scene lights up on the rack
those,
as well.
and actually those I ran off the house battery, and I'm running those off the Switch Pro.
I can't wait for these guys to see the inside, because you, dude, the stuff that you have done with this electrical system, you guys, this is gonna blow your mind. Like, it's the cleanest and most advanced electrical system I think I've ever seen, and like Jeep, I've never seen anything like this before. But let's talk about the rear first, and then we'll hop on the inside. So John, I remember when you first started modifying this, one of the first things you were working on was a way to carry a bigger tire. What did you come up with?
So as you put on a bigger tire, it was going to hit the small door over here. So it was just kind of kissing it. We kind of spaced it out, played around with it. But then I kind of wanted to Americanize it. I want to show off the wheel in the back. The Ineos puts the wheel face going inward. And then that allows you to put in some storage inside the wheel. I'm not a fan of that. I carry my trash on the back, right? So we moved it over. We made a billet mount that's really nice and allows us to put on the bigger tire. We've got plenty of clearance in here for opening and closing the door. And then you can see the tire on the back.
Is there room to go bigger, you think?
Yeah, you can go up to a 35. Have customers that run 35s.
All right. Let's open this up, and let's see all the cool stuff you've done inside, because we've been busy.
Not a whole ton, but a few of the things, because I've been trying to figure out how to use this, when we go off-road. Like, I've got the Sprinter, and the Sprinter I carry everything, right? This is a little bit different. So might even be changing this out, but right now I've got the Airby fridge in here. I've got a pretty decent sized one. Got good access in here for opening it up. This is also tied into the house battery. And then I've also got a thermometer in here that I can tell. I don't need to use a thermometer in here. I can actually do that.
We'll get into that. So I'm telling you guys, it's super cool tech. What are you strapped down to?
So did the goose gear. So, and if I change something, I'll probably do with Brian's other setup where I'll take out the seats, do that. I'm not settled there, but this fit like a glove. Just bolted in, went right in.
They do an amazing job.
It was a 10-minute job.
And you've got your proprietary air system over there.
So we did a full onboard air system. This one's got the fridge hook up here. The air, and then I turn it on and off from back here. Nice. I wanted a system out here, kind of like a porch light. And the compressor's inside, so it stays nice and cool.
Where inside did you mount?
Underneath the rear seat.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, you'll see that.
Okay, and then this tailgate table.
Yeah, tailgate table, I just did a simple little table. This one's from Rigged.
Okay.
Other people make different things, and just bolts right on. It gives us me a nice spot.
Yeah.
And I ultimately, after taking this thing out more, I need more table space. This is not enough. And this thing's huge compared to a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
it's so functional, not just for cooking, but just a place to like put a tool bag if you need it or whatever. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
What else have you done in here? Anything else worth mentioning?
So the power I do, even though it looks completely stock, if this gear wasn't in there, this is all stock.
Yeah.
There is an inverter. I put an inverter back there. It's got about a 1,000-watt inverter. It's a Victron inverter.
Okay.
And so I can make coffee. I could use certain things up to 1,000 watts.
Okay.
So.
Well, let's. I think I'm most excited to talk about the electrical system. So let's hop in the interior and talk about that.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right, John. I got to say, this is some of the most impressive electrical work I've seen in a vehicle. Man, can you just take us through what you've done back here?
Yeah, I'll try.
It's a lot.
So it's a lot going on here, but we did a full Victron system. So the Ineos Grenadier comes with a single 100 amp hour AGM, which is still utilized in here. And then you can get it with an optional for a second AGM battery. So what we did is we added our own, and we found this 200 amp hour lithium battery from Victron, and it just fits in the factory location, and we were able to use a lot of the factory stuff. So we've got a 200 amp hour Victron, we've got our BMS in here, we've got a DC to DC charger, we've got our smart shunt in here, we've got solar MPPT solar controller, we've got a battery connect, and then also I opted to do the Servo GX. So the Servo GX is kind of like a CAN bus or a all-one controller. We can actually connect to the internet with this. We can connect, everything's Bluetooth in here, number one. And then on top of that, so you can access it here. I can access it from an iPad or my phone, things like that. But then I've also connected to the internet, and we can go through Wi-Fi.
Hold on. I think this is an important thing to talk about because you were showing me this. So from Agile's perspective, the customer can have it where they can see it, but they can also opt to give your techs access to the system.
Yeah.
And so they can help, your techs can help troubleshoot this. That's crazy technology.
Yeah, and we've been doing this on RVs in the RV industry, and so we're not big into wiring RVs. We're more suspension guys, but we've got a few of the techs there that are extremely good at this. They're really passionate about it. One of the guys lives off grid, and they have a house in Octia, and it's completely off grid.
Yeah.
We can go to an app, or we can go to the internet, and you can do it on a laptop, and we can actually go in. My tech could come in here and help me troubleshoot this remotely.
Yeah.
As long as I'm hooked up, and we've got a Starlink on this, so I've got a Gen 3 Starlink, and he can come in here and he can tell me, hey, you need to check this, you can check that. He can also come in and look and see exactly the dash that I'm seeing on his laptop.
Wow, that's crazy technology. I love that because, I mean, look, it's a little bit of a complicated system, but I like that it's individualized because it makes it easy to kind of troubleshoot and maintenance. It's not one big system that's all in one box. That you've been able to kind of make it all fit nice and clean, and if you need to troubleshoot a specific item, it's easy to do.
Yeah, when this thing's all shut down, this looks factory.
Yeah. There's
not like this big box floating into the floor or in the back.
Right.
You can get some nice systems that are out there, but they take up so much space. This, we can kind of lay it all on. We've even got our onboard air. The onboard air tucks right down in here.
Yep.
The single onboard air fits in this wasted space.
Yeah.
And I'm all about utilizing that space. And also it's lightweight.
Yeah.
This system is pretty lightweight.
Yeah, 200 amp hours is a lot. And you also have the Starlink, is that the module here that it plugs into, but it's not on the roof right now.
Yeah, that's not, that's basically, this takes your power from 12 volts up to 57 volts to run the Gen 3.
Okay.
That's what all that piece does. And then everything else is up top, the router's up top, everything. So then this has the Switch Pro in it, and then we put the controller up on the dash, and then we 3D printed out a piece, and that allows me to have the Switch Pro in there. So I've got 12 switches with multiple functions, and then we've also got the turbo touch screen up there.
Yeah.
And the turbo touch screen is cool. And if you're a Victron guy, you're going to be like, oh, this is all the cool stuff.
What I love about what you've done up there is that looks like it could be factory, like it just could have come from the factory just like that. And it's so easy because the cool thing about the Grenadier is that it has all these kind of tactile buttons, and you've just integrated all that stuff to where those buttons already are.
Yeah.
You've done a great job with that.
Thanks.
Let's take a look at some of the other touches you've done in the interior as well.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right, John, you've done some amazing stuff in here to really make this extremely functional. Can you just talk through the things that you've done in here so far?
Yeah, so the one thing that I noticed in this, well, it's similar to the Jeep where it doesn't have much of a windscreen in there for you to look out. So I didn't really want to have a bunch more features. What's unique about the Grenadier is your front setup here is just pretty much your idiot lights. This is where all the function, this is like your dash, and it's not for me in a convenient spot. So I'll work from this side over. We've added a handle. These do not come with a handle on this side. And then as you look at this handle, it's kind of very, almost looks factory. It almost looks plastic. It's actually built aluminum, and then we powder coated it. We've also put a track in here, and this allows us to mount the balls from the different manufacturers.
It's so clean. You don't even look like, it doesn't even look like it's aftermarket. Yeah,
and that's what we wanted, because you don't want to have like this thing with, lightning bolts and things like this. This is a classic car. You want it to bolt it on and live forever, like timeless look.
And that's functional. Like when you're climbing up into a lifted vehicle off-road, having a grab handle right there.
And that helps you utilize the steps that we've got, because they're fairly high. But when I had these out, when my wife got into the vehicle and I had them out because we were testing with them, doing some things, first thing she says is, where's the grab handle?
Right.
So, but I've also, I've got a couple of GPSs. So one thing we've got is I've added a wolf box mirror to this. Seeing out the back is not great. I didn't think I'd like this. I actually am getting used to the wolf box mirror. It's a video output, and that works really well. There's a GPS for that as well, so that will give me my miles per hour and direction I'm going. This GPS over here is actually tied into the power system. One thing I didn't bring up. So, and then there's an SD card mounted into the power system. So I'm tracking this vehicle all the time. And that's stored on the SD card. So another cool feature in that system.
Pretty cool. And the wolf box mirror is it's got motion sensing recording and does a front camera. So that's got a lot of nice features in it as well.
So that you see those, like on there's like somebody cutting you off. And you have it on video. That's where
you got a recording of it, which is pretty clever.
And then this, I put my phone over here. I want to free up this area. I'm a sucker for having a large size iPad. I'm old at 45. My eyes sort of going away. I'm much older than that now, so I need a full size iPad. And this is well within my reach. I can get my GPS up here, so I can record my trails, have access to it, and it's not up here. It's not blocking view. So we had to make a handle for that, and this is like super strong.
The handle you made is extremely clean. Talk about that. That's nice.
So instead of it just having a track, which it still has a track in there, we also put in a real robust mechanism from Ram. They actually use them for laptops in patrol cars, things like that. So this is overkill. Overkill.
Well, no, I don't think it is. I think it's perfect.
The rest of the dash is pretty simple. Up here, you'll see where we put our 3D printed piece. That allows me to put in my Switch Pro 12. The Turbo Touch is up there. So I can see what's going on up there. I can see my batteries. Right now, my battery's at 87%.
That's awesome. And you've got some custom carpets in here. What are those?
So this one had carpet, and I put in these mats from Inhabit. We actually have those at the shop. They're really great. You can actually power wash them.
Nice.
So they get dirty, and you just clean them up.
Well, they look good. They fit the design of the truck. So that's really nice. All right, I got a couple more questions for you, but let's hop outside the vehicle. Okay. Well, John, I love what you've done to the Grenadier so far, but I still got a couple more questions for you. Why did you choose this model specifically?
Didn't know any better. I mean, I really didn't. I figured, well, I'm buying this vehicle. It wasn't that much for this version, the Fieldmaster. There's certain things I probably don't need in it, like the carpet. Probably wouldn't have done the carpet. People have to understand when you go to Grenadier, you can actually order whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can buy just a wagon and then put all the pieces on there, but you can get you know, versions that have the winches on them and things like that.
Right.
Those are just kind of like an, you know, an XL and XLT
Yeah.
version.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have been this one, the carpet, but I've cured that with the mats.
Yeah. Okay. What's your favorite thing about the Grenadier?
You know what? The way it drives. I'm a fan of being straight axle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Jeep. The performance off-road is,
Yeah.
I know that it has that performance off-road.
Yeah.
The way it drives on the street is pretty nice.
Yeah, the way it
Really
drives off-road is pretty nice.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
went up the mountain just in this and everybody took turns driving it yesterday.
Yeah.
Everybody had the same thing. They're like, man, this is super plush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had 4 people in it.
Right. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so that's not the norm either. So,
Right.
Yeah.
What's your least favorite thing about the Grenadier?
A lot of the modern bells, you know, like the alarms.
Yeah.
Like, matter of fact, when we were on the trail, remember that we kept on hearing that chime.
Yeah.
It was the damn rear door.
Yeah.
You know, it was just this annoying chime, and then the rear door thing would only show up for an instant, and then I was like, hey, that rear door is not latched, and we latched it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, a lot of upgrades you've already done, but there's still some things in the works. What do you got coming?
Yeah. More suspension stuff.
Okay.
So we'll be doing a few more options for springs, things like that. Yeah. Skid plates. It's got the plastic transmission pan like the Jeeps, right?
Okay.
The ZF 8-speed.
Yeah.
So we need to protect that. I took it to Colorado, San Juan Mountains, performed flawless. There was some areas where we were a little bit more careful than others because of the rocks.
Yeah.
I think with the skid plates it would have been good.
And you mentioned brakes. What do you got planned for that?
Yeah, so the brakes on this are probably, you know, if you're hot rodding around and you go to hit the brakes, they're not great.
Yeah.
So we do brakes for the sprinters with Alcon. Alcon's in us. We're working on brakes for this.
All right. So lots of mods coming, and probably still many more to come over time because this is still pretty new, right? It's exciting.
And I'm fascinated with it because it's a blank slate. So not that, you know, we're bringing some of the things that we do with Jeeps and other vehicles, and we're just incorporating
Yeah,
into this.
I love your passion because every time I come to the shop, you're like, Brett, come see what I did. Come see what I did. You can tell that you're excited about this, and I think that comes through in everything you've done because it looks great, man.
Thanks.
So it's awesome. Guys, if you have a Grenadier or a Sprinter van and you're looking to get it upfitted, Agile Off-Road will take good care of you. John, it's been great being up here. We still got a couple days to go, and we got some great stuff to do, guys. If you're looking for gear to outfit your next adventure, check us out over at TrailRecon.com. Until next time, safe travels.